In ancient Greek mythology, Zeus, the king of the gods, often disguised himself as a mortal to test the hospitality of humans. This concept of divine disguise and testing, called xenia, was a sacred and cultural cornerstone in Greek society. Xenia represents the ancient Greek code of hospitality, dictating the generosity and courtesy shown to those far from home. It was believed that any stranger might be a god in disguise, and treating them well could bring favor, while mistreatment could result in divine retribution. In the context of the tale of King Lycaon, Zeus's choice to disguise himself is significant because it underscores the sanctity of guest right and the grave consequences of violating this ancient rule. By visiting mortals incognito, Zeus evaluates human virtue and morality. His journey to King Lycaon's court serves as a dramatic illustration of what can happen when Xenia is disregarded. When Lycaon not only fails the test by trying to deceive Zeus with human flesh, but also defies the core principle of hospitality, he faces immediate and severe punishment, highlighting violation of Xenia as a cardinal sin. Two specific examples further elucidate this concept. In Homer's Odyssey, the Phaeacians exemplify Xenia by offering Odysseus lavish hospitality and safe passage home, ultimately receiving Zeus's favor for honoring the guest right. Conversely, the suitors occupying Odysseus's home in Ithaca are punished for abusing hospitality, underscoring Zeus's disdain for its violation. Opinion supports the idea that Xenia was crucial for fostering trust and safety in a world where travel was perilous. The moral lesson of Lycaon's story and similar tales reinforces community bonds and mutual respect, acknowledging the dangers of failing to uphold such ethics. However, challenges and controversies around this idea include the notion of punitive transformation, which raises questions about divine justice and the morality of severe punishments. Some view these myths as reflective of arbitrary and tyrannical aspects of the divine, questioning whether the gods' ways were just. The theme of hospitality interconnects with other myths where Zeus intervenes, proving a constant thread in narratives that explore human morality and divine interaction. The tale of Lycaon thus not only contributes to the mythos of werewolves, but also solidifies the concept of Xenia as an enduring principle, demonstrating the interconnected dilemmas of power, morality, and humanity's relationship with the divine. Xenia, an ancient Greek concept, is the sacred code of hospitality that dictated how hosts and guests should treat each other with respect and generosity. Rooted in the belief that any guest might be a god in disguise, Xenia comprised three primary elements: respect from host to guest, respect from guest to host, and the exchange of gifts. This system established a moral and social order, promoting kindness and generosity as core values of Greek society. In the story of Zeus testing mortal hospitality, Xenia's significance is pronounced. The tale underscores the dire consequences of defying this sacred duty. King Lycaon's actions represent a flagrant violation of Xenia, directly opposing the divine principle that Zeus, the god of hosts and guests, holds dear. The horrifying act of serving human flesh exemplifies a profound disrespect not only to the guest, who is Zeus in disguise, but also to the moral order that Xenia embodies. As Zeus retaliates by transforming Lycaon into a wolf, it becomes clear that violating guest right is seen as a cardinal sin against the divine and social fabric of Greek life. Real-world applications of Xenia are evident in Homer's epics, like the Odyssey, where the protagonist, Odysseus, often relies on the hospitality of strangers to survive his journey. The cultural importance of Xenia is also reflected in the rituals of ancient Greek society, where hospitality was a reciprocal, nearly sacred ritual, ensuring peace and cooperation between states and individuals alike. These examples illustrate Xenia as a binding force in Greek civilization, fostering harmony and mutual respect. Critics might argue that Xenia was idealized, more of a mythological or literary construct than a societal norm consistently practiced. Others suggest that while the elite could afford luxurious hospitality, the lower classes might have found such expectations burdensome. Nonetheless, the stories grounded in Xenia emphasize its aspirational nature and the divine consequences of disregarding it, reinforcing its pivotal role in both myth and morality. The tale of Lycaon demonstrates the profound influence of Xenia on other aspects of Greek mythology, highlighting moral lessons about respect, reciprocity, and the omnipresence of the gods. It connects to the broader narrative of justice, suggesting that divine retribution swiftly follows breaches of moral or sacred codes, thus reinforcing the interconnectedness of hospitality, morality, and divine order in ancient Greek culture. Zeus's arrival at King Lycaon's court serves as a pivotal moment in the myth of hospitality and divine retribution. In Greek mythology, Zeus often descended to the mortal world disguised as a traveler to test human hospitality, or xenia, a sacred and inviolable rule governing the relationship between a host and their guest. Xenia was not merely a social nicety, but a moral and religious obligation, reflecting the Greeks' belief that every guest could be a god in disguise. The importance of Zeus's arrival in this narrative underlines the severe consequences of violating Xenia. When Zeus reaches Lycaon's court, it becomes clear that hospitality is more than just providing food and shelter. It is a moral indicator that reflects the character and piety of the host. Lycaon's actions, murdering a hostage and attempting to serve human flesh to the king of gods, demonstrate an egregious breach of this sacred bond, symbolizing the ultimate disrespect towards both human and divine laws. In real-world applications, this myth has parallels in various cultural traditions that emphasize treating strangers with kindness and respect. For example, the concept of the guest is from God, prevalent in many Middle Eastern cultures, reflects a similar reverence for guests. Similarly, in modern contexts, the idea of corporate hospitality echoes these ancient values, where businesses are judged by how they treat clients and partners. Opinions supporting this idea emphasize the timelessness of the moral lesson. Hospitality is a cornerstone of civilization, and its violation leads to societal breakdown. Commentators often argue that neglecting these foundational principles can result in significant moral and ethical decay. However, challenges and controversies arise in interpreting how such myths align with contemporary societal values, where the roles of host and guest continue to evolve. As societies become more globalized, the lines of cultural expectations and hospitality might blur, leading to misunderstandings or conflicts. Zeus's visitation not only fast-tracks Lycaon's downfall, but also serves as a profound reminder of divine justice and the consequences awaiting those who defy sacred laws. By transforming Lycaon into a wolf, Zeus not only punishes him, but also births the werewolf myth, symbolizing the primal descent into savagery when hospitality is abandoned. This incident intricately ties the themes of transformation and punishment with broader narratives of power, morality, and the sacred duty to uphold the divine laws of hospitality. Thus, Zeus's visit to Lycaon's court is not just a story about divine wrath, but a complex reflection on the values that uphold human society. Lycaon's suspicion and devious plan are central to the mythological narrative where Zeus tests mortal hospitality. This plan involves Lycaon's extreme skepticism towards his divine guest, Zeus, who arrives at his court disguised as a traveler. The essence of this heading highlights the contrast between genuine hospitality and unwarranted suspicion that leads to malicious actions. In Greek mythology, xenia, the ancient Greek concept of hospitality, was viewed as a divine right. Violating it was seen as an affront to the gods themselves. Lycaon's plan is significant because it sets the stage for the broader consequences that unfold in the myth. By devising such a horrific scheme, slaughtering a hostage and serving human flesh, Lycaon illustrates a profound mistrust of the divine and disdain for the sacred principles of guest right. This narrative emphasizes that hospitality was not just about welcoming and feeding guests. It tested one's reverence for the gods and their laws. The punishment that follows underscores the belief that any breach of xenia invites divine retribution. In examining real-world parallels, consider cultural practices that hold hospitality sacred, such as Bedouin customs, where guests are treated with utmost honor, often regardless of their identity. Similarly, in many cultures today, offering food and shelter to guests signifies trust and goodwill. An example in modern storytelling is the trope where the host, suspecting ill intent from the guest, sets a trap illustrating ongoing concerns about vulnerability and betrayal in social exchanges. Supporters of the myth's moral point argue that Lycaon's story serves as a timeless reminder of the importance of trust and kindness in societal interactions. Myths like these were instrumental in shaping the ethical framework of ancient communities and continue to resonate in cultural narratives that value hospitality. However, the controversy arises when considering Lycaon's perspective rooted in fear and self-preservation, in a time when gods often intervened in mortal affairs unpredictably. Some may empathize with his paranoia, seeing it as a survival mechanism rather than inherent malevolence. This narrative thread weaves into the larger theme of divine justice and transformation. Lycaon's punishment, turning him into a wolf, symbolizes the natural consequence of his actions, reinforcing the belief that one's moral nature is reflected in their earthly form, hence birthing the werewolf myth. This transformation links the idea that betraying Xenia leads to a fundamental change, resonating with the broader theme of actions having repercussions within both mortal and divine spheres. Through this myth, the Greeks articulated a world where divine power upheld moral laws and transgressions were not overlooked.